Packing up and moving out for the second time in less than 6 months. This wasn't by choice. So Michelle hired a lawyer to represent her in front of Quebec's housing tribunal.
I wanted to see this through because I didn't want her to get away with this.
Manuel Johnson believes his client has a strong case against her former landlord.
With that level of duplicity, to say, oh, whoops, I rented out the apartment to somebody else, that is on the extreme level of bad faith of what I've seen. So that's why the case jumped out at us.
Michelle is not this tenant's real name. We've chosen to conceal her identity because of her situation.
I've never felt more scared than when I was dealing with this.
She was living in a 3.5 in Hochelaga Maisonneuve and says things started to change after the owner sold the building.
My neighbor said to me, he said, we absolutely, this is going to be a renovation because, you know, this is not a fancy place. These new people are coming in. They're going to try to make it fancy.
According to land register records obtained by CTV News, the building was sold in February 2024 to a numbered company.
The actual administrators, it's very difficult to lift the corporate veil. But yes, the administrators of the company, their names that are familiar to the housing committees.
Through judgments from Quebec's housing tribunal and documents provided by tenants, CTV News has linked that numbered company to a woman named Magali Cuvillier, a 33-year-old from Morin Heights with a big presence on social media.
Magali Cuvillier, bienvenida Magali.
Sergio, un placer.
Cuvillier built a following online after moving to Colombia, becoming fluent in Spanish, and posting videos of her experiences embracing Colombian culture. In 2019, she was invited to be an MC at the Expo Latino Festival in Calgary. She was described as a French-Canadian influencer who always communicates happiness and positive vibes, elevating others, adding a little flavor everywhere she goes.
La beauté de l'immobilier, c'est que il y a toujours une solution. Toujours, toujours.
Ultimately, Cuvillier chose to settle in Montreal. And this is the city where it appears she reinvented herself as a real estate investor.
Des fois, j'ai l'impression que j'ai eu plusieurs vies, mais c'est vraiment...
Cuvillier took over ownership of the building Michelle was living in. She bought it with her boyfriend and business partner, Edouard Martin.
Hey, this is Edward, Magali's boyfriend. I hope you're doing well.
Michelle says she asked them to deal with an electricity issue.
They said that basically electricity is only one thing wrong with a lot of other stuff. We need to redo a lot of it. The walls are bad. The roof is bad.
Michelle agreed to leave her apartment for 3 months. She put all her belongings in storage and moved in with a friend. She says she didn't suspect anything until November, when she asked about moving back into her own place in the new year.
That was when, like, the first bombshell kind of hit.
Cuvillier provided her with a list of the work they'd completed and told her the rent was going up.
It would be going from $840 to $1,400. So this was insane. All of a sudden, I obviously freak out because you don't know if it's legal, you don't know like what's going on.
They met in person, and according to Michelle, Cuvillier claimed she'd tried to get in touch repeatedly by email, but had mistakenly used the wrong email address.
And then she goes on to say, because I didn't hear from you, I actually lined up a different tenant for January 1st. So I have someone that is willing and ready to move in on January 1st if you decide that $1,400 is too much for you.
Michelle advised Cuvillier she planned to stay in her apartment, and any rent increase could be discussed closer to the end of the lease. Cuvillier replied, "All right, understood." But 10 days later, when Michelle followed up, it was a different story.
And she explains that she has misunderstood my email and she has already rented it out to someone else. The way she said that she misunderstood it was that it was unclear that since I used the verb stay in my apartment, that meant I wanted to stay here in this apartment.
Johnson says his client was essentially trapped.
In these kind of situations, if the owner signs a lease with a third party, and that third party is in good faith, and that third party moves in while the original tenant is evacuated, the tribunal will not force the new tenants to move out. So that means you lost your dwelling.
We reached out to Cuvillier to get her version of events. She declined our request for an on-camera interview, but provided a statement through her lawyer. This case is currently before the courts. It will be up to the tribunal to render a judgment. Our only comment is that there was some confusion in the email exchanges. As for Michelle, she says she's sharing her story in the hopes of helping others.
I just want people to know if they are in a situation like this, that they are not alone. There are people going through this. And if you are made to feel like you have done something wrong by your landlord, just don't take that at face value and seek out information.
A cautionary tale for tenants as Montreal's rental market keeps getting tougher. Maya Johnson, CTV News.